Shortly after midnight on August 9, 2013, Brandon Lawson left his home in San Angelo, Texas. He was angry. He had been arguing with his girlfriend. Voices were raised. Nothing physical. But the tension was enough for Brandon to walk out the door. He got into his truck and drove into the night. Brandon was 26 years old. A father. Working in the oil fields. Used to long hours, physical labor, and being tired. This was not unusual behavior. He had left the house before to cool off. He had driven at night before. At first, nothing about this night appeared different. But sometime after 12:30 a.m., Brandon called his brother Kyle. He told him he had run out of gas. He said he was on Highway 277. He asked Kyle to bring fuel. Kyle agreed. They stayed on the phone as Brandon tried to explain where he was. Landmarks were hard to describe. The area was dark. Rural. Unforgiving. At some point, Brandon said something that changed the tone of the call. He told his brother he wasn't alone. He said someone was chasing him. Kyle didn't know what to make of it. Brandon's voice sounded different. Not calm. Not drunk. But rushed. He said he was bleeding. That he had cut himself. That he was hiding. Kyle told him to stay put. To get back to the truck. To turn on the hazard lights. But Brandon said he couldn't. He said there were people nearby. That they were watching him. Kyle drove toward the location Brandon described. He stayed on the phone as long as he could. Then the call dropped. Alone, frightened, and unsure of what was happening, Brandon called 911. The dispatcher answered. Brandon tried to explain where he was. His sentences came out fast. Some words overlapped. Others were swallowed by the noise of the night. He said he was being chased. That he needed help. That he was in danger. The dispatcher asked questions. Brandon struggled to answer them. At one point, his voice rose. At another, it dropped to almost nothing. Then, abruptly, the call ended. Kyle arrived at the location Brandon had described. On the side of Highway 277, he found the truck. It was parked. Not crashed. Not damaged. The hazard lights were not on. There were no signs of a struggle. No blood. No broken glass. Brandon was nowhere in sight. Kyle called Brandon's phone. No answer. He called police. When officers arrived, they saw what Kyle saw. An empty truck. An empty stretch of highway. Darkness in every direction. The gas tank was empty. That part of the story made sense. Everything else did not. Searches began almost immediately. Officers walked the roadside. They checked nearby fields. They shined flashlights into ditches and tall grass. There was no trail. No clear direction Brandon had gone. By morning, the sun revealed how vast the area really was. Oil fields. Service roads. Uneven ground stretching for miles. A place where someone could disappear. Without being hidden. And yet, there was one thing no one could explain. If Brandon had been chased, why was there no sign of anyone else? And if he had simply wandered off, why was he never found? By the time daylight came, the scene looked different. What had felt like a narrow stretch of highway at night was now revealed as something much larger. The area around Highway 277 was open, uneven, and difficult to search. Tall grass. Dry ditches. Oil field equipment scattered across the land. Service roads that led nowhere. Police expanded the search outward from the truck. They walked in lines. They checked culverts. They looked for disturbed ground. Nothing. Search dogs were brought in. Handlers hoped for a scent. Something to follow. The dogs picked up nothing that led to Brandon. No trail into the fields. No clear direction away from the road. The absence itself became unsettling. Because if Brandon had run, he should have left something behind. Officers spoke to nearby residents. No one reported hearing anything. No one saw anyone running. No vehicles were reported stopping in the area that night. The search continued for days. Then weeks. Each time, the same result. Nothing. As physical evidence failed to appear, attention turned back to the one thing Brandon had left behind. The 911 call. Investigators listened carefully. So did Brandon's family. The audio was unclear. His voice overlapped with background noise. Words blurred together. Some phrases were understandable. Others were not. People heard different things. Some thought he said he was being chased. Others believed he was confused, disoriented, or hallucinating. The dispatcher asked for landmarks. Brandon struggled to provide them. He mentioned the road. He mentioned a truck. He mentioned people nearby. But nothing concrete. The most disturbing part of the call wasn't what Brandon said. It was how urgent he sounded. Without being able to explain why. A man asking for help. But unable to tell anyone how to reach him. Over time, the recording was analyzed repeatedly. Slowed down. Cleaned. Played again and again. No definitive answers emerged. Just interpretations. With no body and no evidence, theories began to form. One possibility was simple. Brandon became disoriented. He left the road. He wandered into the fields. He collapsed somewhere unseen. The terrain could hide a body. Animals. Weather. Time. Another possibility was that Brandon's fear was not based on reality. That exhaustion, stress, or substances altered his perception. That the chase he described wasn't happening. But even that theory struggled. Because even if Brandon was confused, he still existed somewhere. And no trace of him was ever found. There were also darker ideas. That Brandon encountered someone. That something happened off the road. That the truth was never witnessed. But again, there was no evidence to support it. Every theory explained part of the night. None explained all of it. The case stalled. Not from lack of effort, but from lack of anything to hold on to. After years of searching, one explanation continues to surface. Not because it is satisfying, but because it leaves the fewest unanswered steps. Brandon likely left the road. Disoriented. Afraid. Possibly injured. In the darkness, the land around Highway 277 does not feel open. It feels endless. The ground drops without warning. Ditches cut through the fields. Tall grass hides depth and distance. Someone unfamiliar with the area could easily misjudge where they were stepping. If Brandon fell into a ditch. If he was injured. If he lost consciousness. There would be no phone call. No signal. No way to call for help again. Over time, weather erases signs. Animals scatter remains. The land closes over what was left behind. It is not dramatic. It does not require another person. It does not rely on coincidence. Just a series of small failures. Stacked in the dark. And yet, questions persist. Why did search dogs find nothing? Why was there no scent trail? Why was the body never discovered? Even after repeated searches? Some believe the area was not searched deeply enough. Others believe the terrain is more deceptive than it looks. The 911 call remains difficult to explain. The fear in Brandon's voice. The urgency. The references to people nearby. Was he describing something real? Or was his mind misfiring under stress, exhaustion, and panic? No one can answer that with certainty. Because the only person who could explain what he saw never came back. Brandon Lawson made a call for help. He described fear, confusion, danger. He left behind a truck, a voice recording, and a night that never resolved. There are cases where answers arrive years later. A body is found. A witness speaks. A mistake is uncovered. This has not been one of them. The highway remains. Cars still pass through. The fields grow and are cut back again. Somewhere near that road, a final moment exists. Unseen. Unrecorded. Unexplained. Brandon Lawson is still missing. And after the call ended, after the search failed, after the questions piled up, then nothing.